Hey, welcome everybody. This is one of the first videos I've done using my actual voice, and I hate the sound of it, so hopefully you don't. But I'm just down here at my local Kmart that have no affiliation, and I do not use Anko as a main brand, but here for the purpose of this video, I want to demonstrate just how cheap and how easy it is to be able to make your own masterpiece without breaking the bank. I think I can even hear a little price check in the background there. So here I am now just throwing out my set of paintbrushes, my blister pack of acrylics, and also the canvas, which comes with an added frame, by the way. And wasn't what I expected, really wasn't what I wanted, but at the end of the day, it's what I was presented with at the store, and still managed to buy all this for under 20 bucks. Now, if you watched any of my previous videos, you may have seen me then just unboxing these beautiful little items we got from the store that I also held onto the clear plastic wrapper. Now, the reason for that is that it comes in very handy for this style of art, which you'll see very, very shortly. Here I'm just unboxing the paintbrushes, setting everything aside, and just make sure that you do clean your brushes if they're brand new, just to be able to get rid of any little bristles and other things. Now, I don't usually fast forward here, but what's the point of sitting there watching me clean every brush? But just so that it sinks in, clean every brush thoroughly, just to be able to get them nice and wet, be able to form some shape, and also get rid of any loose bristles and hairs. Okay, starting off with some medium green. The good thing about the blister pack too, by the way, is that there's no quinacridone, I can't even say it, quinacridone red and quinacridone, or you know what I mean. I can't even pronounce it, let alone try to read them. There's blister pack has pack has very easy to follow colours. Not just dark red, dark green, all those sorts of things. No real complicated quinacridone. Why can't I say quinacridone? Anyway, here I'm just mixing up a really nice little green, and by way of yellow, green and white, and just adding a little bit more yellow there to really give it a little bit more body. Mix that up. Now there I was using, for the first time there, I'm using a little plastic spatula, which is very cheap, but I did not buy that in this video. That was a little cheap there, so really I should have been mixing that with my brush. But anyway, c'est la vie. There I am finally starting the artwork, and just using the 15mm filbert brush, which means it's a flat brush, but it doesn't have a square edge. It has a nice rounded edge, and just filling in all the canvas straight from the tube here, using some white, and pretty much just using the cellophane or clear plastic paper that we got from the beginning that I was talking about earlier, and now just dabbing that all over the canvas. Some yellow, just little droplets all over the canvas. The good thing about these artworks is that there's no real complicated, let's say, techniques involved. It's more or less just slap, dab, push paint around, and don't get too precious. It's a matter of just enjoying the process. And honestly, even when I'm doing them, I have an idea of where I'd like it to end up, but a lot of the times the painting takes over and has a mind of its own. There's my little helper with her little arm there. She's cleaning all the brushes for me. Okay, just squeezing some dark green onto my little palette. And by the way, my palette is, yes, a little saucer. And I really like them because they're easy to clean. Most of the time they're white. And they also really help me when I want to do some splatters, so I can actually really water down the paint and not be too worried about spilling them all over my workspace. And yeah, they're usually ones that we don't use anymore, so I'm quite I'm allowed to use them. Now, straight from the tube, I've got some yellow and I'm just squeezing that on. I really love texture, by the way, and so the more thick and chunky I can get it, the happier I am. Here I've really started to water down some green that I had left over, and really, I know there's going to be people out there just saying, you freak, you're watering down that paint and breaking down the consistency. Guess what? I bought the paint for $4, the whole blister pack, so I'm not too worried about it lasting for 500 years. But for the sake of lasting a good 50 years, I know that it will, and it'll look great, especially once we put some clear lacquer over that, some waterproof membrane or something like that to really keep it, bring out the colours and also keep it nice and fresh, and also able to clean in the future. But anyway, back to the painting. Here I've got, I've just done some splatters, as I was saying. Now I've got some dark red or possibly crimson. I'm not even going to try and say quinacridone. Yep, still haven't got it. And some viridian red, but it's just a light red in this case. Some white. I'll mix those together to make up a really nice little pink. Now it's time to start adding some flowers to the artwork, and here I'm just, as you can see, plopping them onto the canvas. I'm not too worried about where they land. I'm just wanting to be able to fill the whole thing with colour and just blobbing them on. Hopefully by the end of the painting it does resemble a flower, and I'm not too worried about petals or getting bogged down with detail. It's just a matter of having some fun and filling them out, and like I said, at the end of the artwork, resembling a flower. Here I've got some dark red, the crimson again. I'm just, as a point of interest, putting that over the top of the pink, not worried about it drying. In that pink I've also got some white, and now I've mixed out a little bit more of the viridian or the lighter red, and just to give it a little bit more of a variation of colour, that's turned it into a nice orange. And also using some fresh water. I just want you to note that use the murky water for your general cleaning, and then to get it really nice and clean, use the fresh bowl. So it's always good to have two. Here I'm back to some splatters using the crimson or the dark red, and just remember that when they do dry, they're going to dry a little bit lighter or a little bit more translucent than when they've landed on the canvas, when you initially put them onto the canvas. So don't be too worried if you feel like you've wrecked it, because a lot of the time they will just fade out. Now we're just mixing up some blue with some white there. And another thing is that this is just a guide. It's what I'm using. You don't have to use these colours if you're following along. Just pretty much whatever takes your fancy, and however you want to make your artwork do. I mean, by all means, follow me along as far as the composition goes, which means just like as far as the shape and where I'm putting all the flowers and variations in colour. But you can, as for instance, you could use an orange or a red right now, or a yellow. It's totally up to you. Now, here I'm adding a little bit of white to the blue, just to give it some highlights, make them look like they're part of the blue flower. And now adding some green for some green stems. I'm just going to trail it over the canvas back towards the flowers, just to give it a bit of a stem look, and then we'll get some white and we'll just start to hit some more highlights, as in dots over the stems, and that will just give it a little bit more interest and make it look more like an arrangement. Just adding some dark blue for a little bit more depth to the blue flowers. Just going to use some yellow here for some nice splatters again all over the artwork. A lot of people hate splatters, but I really love them. I think they add a little bit more interest and a little bit of vibrancy to the artwork. And just touching on what I was talking about before, I personally don't use cheap brands like this for my commissioned artworks, but for the beginner, they're really, really good to get your feet wet or dip your toes into the water, so to speak, without breaking the bank. Plus, if you really hate what you've produced at the end of it all, it's not like you're going to cry because you have to throw it out. And don't ever throw it out, by the way. All you have to do if you really hate it is just give it a couple of days, have a look at it in a few days. Sometimes even me at my with some of my artworks, I really hate them. Sometimes I'll be there for 4 hours working on a certain piece, and then at the end of it I'll step back from the canvas or away from the easel, and I will be convinced it's the worst painting anyone has ever done in their life. So yet in the morning I'll wake up and I'll think, oh, that wasn't that bad, or it was an easy fix. So always give yourself a couple of days grace before you chuck an artwork out. But having said that, if you do really, really hate it, then just paint over it. Paint over white, or buy some gesso and paint over the canvas that way you can give it a second life, so to speak. So while I was waffling on there, you can actually see that I've been building out more and more colour, adding some dark tones, and then going over the top of those darker areas with some light. There I've just done some dark green, and then I've just come over the top of the dark green with some light green. Okay, do your fist. Right in there. Bloop, 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 bloop. Give me a look. And let's put him over here. About there. Bloop, bloop. Wow, that's a pretty cool looking bee. Give it a clean.
Magic. It is magic.
It is magic, isn't it? Thanks so much to my little helper there, using her little hand to create our little bee. And that just goes to show you how easy it is to be able to improvise, use what you have around you. In that case, my daughter's little wrist or fist there, to make the body of this bee. Now, as you can see there, how translucent these colours are, and that's not because they're a cheap blister pack, but you can buy some really expensive paint, in this case acrylics, and you'll find that they're very opaque or very, very translucent, and that can just means all you have to do is just constantly do more and more layering. Here I've added a little bit more of the to use terms, I've used a little bit of yellow ochre and mixed that into the yellow, and then really caked it on, virtually shoveled it on with a brush. And now I'm just doing some highlights for some white, some more splatters, and pretty much I don't think I got these all in the right order when I was editing, but you can see I'm just using some darks, some lights, and don't be afraid to use dark splatters on your artworks, because it really adds to the highlights. Just dabbing on a little bit more white for the highlights on the bee. And I do hate when people use fast forward on their film, but I don't want you to have to sit there through the whole process of me adding more and more colour. But here I am just building it out and adding more and more colour, as I was saying, to really give it that 3D effect. And when we do put a a varnish over this, that will really make those colours pop out. Let's see if this fits inside its frame now. It does. It does. It does. Hooray!
Exactly my picture because that's so beautiful.
Ooh. Nice. I'm Ben Heffernan. Hopefully this little video has encouraged you or inspired you to be able to create your own little masterpiece. And as you can see, it's not that expensive. So please, if you got something out of it, remember to likey and subscribey and share me around to all your mates and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Quinacridone. That's it.